One. Welcome to Common Mansplaining, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. Welcome back, Eddie and Christian here. Eddie, Christian, how's it going?
Outstanding.
Woohoo! That sounded very chipper. I wish I could say the same, but
Yeah.
I'm doing all right. I'll be all right. I'll make it. Today we're going to talk about the dangers of social media, and bear in mind when I say that, I mean everything else besides common mansplaining, because we're perfectly safe, 100% safe, and even good for you, nutritious, a nutritious part of your digestion. So, yeah. So here's the question: is social media addictive? Is it good for us? And we know the answers, right? We know the answer. We know it's addictive. We know it's
Well,
probably
all right.
not good for us, but
Okay.
it's a tool like many other things, and like many other things in life, everything in moderation, right? Like there's a degree to which it is useful. There's a degree to which we can make outstanding use of, everybody being at hands length, like being able to basically reach out and contact anyone on the face of the earth. That's amazing, right? But as with basically everything else on Earth, including most technologies, we can take it too far. We can get to the point where we're basically always trying to reach out to people on, I I went to the movies the other day, not too long ago with my kids, and we went to go see like an actual movie, like at a movie theater, right? And we were waiting in line trying to get tickets, and there was this ring of people. They were all standing around in your typical social ring, right? The problem was not a single one of them was actually speaking to each other. They were all on their phone texting, like and I'm like, there's like 13 people there, all not talking to the other 13. Like that was remarkable to me. And I realized, like, when I'm looking at it, I'm like, why don't you guys didn't have to come to the movie theater to do this. You could have stayed home. Because you can just talk, you can text your friends about how great this movie is if that's all you're going to do. Like the reason I go out to the movie theater to actually hang out with my boys is to say, "Oh my god, that was hysterical." Or, "Oh my god, did you see that?" Like literally live reactions, but literally every single one of them was just, tick, 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 tick. And this is a sign that of course we've taken it too far. We've gotten to the point where it is no longer healthy. So, yeah, as some of you may know, Zuckerberg is just now facing trial for Instagram for Meta platforms because the threat, the accusation is that they consciously cater these platforms to try to target impressionable minds. Yes, go ahead.
Well, before we get to Zuckerberg, I just want to respond to your opening statement there. Um, not that I disagree with those assessments. All right, you and I are both a little bit older. I came up Generation X even, and so we didn't have this, but we're not the first generation. This isn't the first generation to become enamored with a new technology.
Right. Right.
Post Civil War, when post offices became much more consistent, everybody was just in love with sending letters. Right? Just,
Yep.
people would send letters 5 times a day. It was a huge thing. And then when phones came out, people were just like phones, right?
Yep.
When the radio, right? So one of my favorite movies is Radio Days. It's a Woody Allen film biographical about his days during World War II, right? When radio was the thing, and his parents just like, all he ever wants to do is listen to the radio. Da, 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 da. Like he's just a waste of, obviously.
Right.
All the things that we've heard about, right? And then there was television, right? And
That's big.
BoobTube and things like that. And nobody was ever like having lawsuits about whether or not these technologies, radio, TV, were too addictive.
Right.
Right. Even when they'd have television shows, right? They're like, all right, stay tuned next time to see if the Lone Ranger dies. Like they'd leave the shows on cliffhangers. They do all kinds of stuff. Now, in the 1980s, where they finally started saying that children's cartoons, which we would watch after school, the ads were coming a little bit we're crossing the line. The
Right.
advertisers are doing that. And so this is a little bit, both Eddie and I play Magic the Gathering, and it's a thing. Sometimes you put something out there
Another
and you're
addiction.
not really sure the effect it has.
Right.
But
Right.
when you start seeing that it has a negative effect, i.e., like everybody feels like they have to run this card or have an immediate response to it if they see it against them, then they call it warping the format, right?
Yeah.
And right, and so tweets are, this is a part of government regulation. Now the ads that you'd have during children's cartoons, they're still, aren't quite as bad as they were. They're still not great, but
Yeah.
anyway, and then now we've come to the age. So I grew up with computer games, right? Nintendo 64, Sega Genesis, home consoles, very addictive, right?
Real computer
Very,
games.
yeah. Again, now the term that technology uses for social media apps. So let's talk about that. So they wouldn't call them addictive; they'd call them sticky,
Yeah.
right? Right. There's so many apps out there, and you get an app, and it might be very powerful, but if for some reason it just doesn't make you want to use it, it's a dud, and it's going nowhere. And one
Right.
of the big things is even a very simple app, if people like using it, staying on it, they call that. I found the app very sticky,
Yeah.
and it becomes something that rewards them, a dopamine rush or things like this that people enjoy. And that's one of the things when you talk about addiction.
Yeah.
It's you're getting this reward sense from your brain. It's like
Yeah.
gamblers, they get dopamine when they gamble. People
Yeah.
like, when I gamble, I don't get that. So I can walk away from gambling. I can appreciate gambling, but it doesn't hook me. It doesn't reward me like it does people that really love it.
Right.
Right. And so social media, right? I waited a long time to get on social media. I wasn't like bleeding edge on this stuff. My wife created like my first Facebook account and a MySpace page, stuff like that. And it was mainly to keep in touch with friends that were out of state, old high school buddies, a few things like
Right.
that. Family members that were distant, before long distance phone calls became free, essentially,
Right.
was a way to communicate. And so obviously I had a childhood. I had, you know,
Right.
long periods of time of I didn't feel like I needed this, and
Right.
embracing it. But we use it. We use social media to communicate, YouTube, other things, and I find it entertaining. But I'm very much take it or leave it. So I think
Yeah.
what the premise is, right, is we understand the good. We understand that it's supposed to be sticky. These aren't bad qualities. And
Not by
the
themselves.
first generation is very obsessed with that. That won't always be the case. That's one of the things that with tech companies, especially, just because you're successful now doesn't mean you'll always be top dog,
Right.
right?
Right.
And so this is a brief moment where they have a lot of attention, but it's too much attention, right? This is sort of the
Yeah.
bandwagon. When
And
we're
there's
just talking about, before we get to politics or anything like that, is this a health issue where there's too much, it's too tweaking to the dopamine receptors in our brain,
right.
especially of young children, that it's affecting their ability to really make decisions about this rationally?
Right.
That's the
Right.
question. All right,
Well,
so
yeah,
that's just my response.
and moreover, right, yeah, not only is the question, is it too sticky, but also, is there really anything you can do about it to an extent, right? Because there's freedom of speech
Yeah,
repercussions, the ramifications here. Because I still remember the first time I played Nintendo, like the very like Super Mario Brothers on
yeah,
a Nintendo Entertainment, and I remember that feverish feeling of like just being so enthralled with something new and amazing, like, and I only rarely experienced that feeling throughout my life, right? Like that's kind of a rare thing, like your first girl that you date,
yeah,
stuff like that. You only rarely get that kind of like, oh my gosh, I cannot put this down, like an amazing book for the first time.
yeah.
No, it doesn't happen all the time, but we've slowly but surely, as we've developed science around it, algorithms, and as we've like learned through like outrageous repetition through like AI
And market
studying things,
research, yeah,
market research, we're getting better and better at attracting that level of attention, right? And so yeah, so now Zuckerberg is called to face the music for it, right? Among others, like everybody's on trial. Really, Zuckerberg is on trial to see if they can put everybody else on trial, basically, and if they can, this is going to have long-lasting repercussions
Well,
throughout the social media world. If he
yeah.
is able to be successfully like held accountable in any form, then lawsuits are going to fly off the handle, or they're going to have to regulate. And
Well,
if
TikTok
he's
and
not,
some of the other people, they settled, right? And so now
yeah,
there's 1,600 cases pending, and they've
right,
decided to kind of proceed with these few and see where they go. It is a money issue for me, right? These people, it's because Facebook is so wealthy, they feel like they have, you're going to just attract lawsuits to try to get some of that money. And sometimes it's just easier say,
yeah,
all right, it's going to cost me $1 million to defend this, which
right,
I think at the end of the day I'll win, or I can cut a check for 750,000 to the people
right.
suing me, and move on with my life.
Yeah, so this is that point where they're realizing if they don't start at least putting forth some resistance on the legal front, then this will just ultimately be like a recall. This will basically be like every person that ever uses this app will start to try to get money from them, basically.
Yeah.
And that's just or whatever percentage of it, or
And
And
then, so my thing, and this is maybe venturing into politics a little earlier, but um, if they find that Facebook needs some changes,
yeah,
who dictates that? One judge dictates that? Does
yeah.
a new government oversight over speech dictate that? Is it something internally? Unless it's common sense, and right, which is, um, I guess, stronger protections that you're not
Yeah.
a
Well,
minor, because the stuff
let's
is
get to
really
that.
focused on minors not being in that. Is that the most common sense solution to this?
I
Or
I
because we
don't
don't
know.
want the government really restricting free speech. The First Amendment
Yeah.
stops them from doing it. They can
So
internally ban
here's the
stuff.
thing. We are getting into the political side of this
Yeah,
very early,
sorry.
but
You're right.
the crux of it, just so I lay it all out for people, basically the crux of it is that these companies have been protected under a subsection of the Communications Act of 1934, right? And it's this thing that allows social media companies places where you have this site and other people come to post on that site, right? Like I go to Twitter and put my stuff on it. It's not Elon Musk publishing his
Yeah.
own stuff, right? And so because of that, they give them a certain amount of protections because I can say crazy stuff. And if I slander someone, it's not Elon Musk's fault, right? And so
Yeah.
they're kind of behind this little shield. But now
Even though
the
they own, once you publish it, they own it, right?
yeah, they own
Once you
large
post a
large
comment
large portions of it. Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Large portions. Not everything, but they own,
yeah,
yes, most of it and stuff like that. So but now there's a to I've always this has been my argument and this has been my common sense argument, right? There's a difference between like a newspaper and like a telephone. And this is kind of like in between them, right? Like the newspaper is yes, they have 100% publication control. They choose what goes out there, they choose what gets printed and stuff. Telephones, they have almost zero control. It's just two people talking to each other, right? Well, this is in the middle, right? This is where they do have some control. They have some editorial power. They just don't have complete control. And so I think it needs to be a third class. I think instead of it being hidden behind the like telephone type of protection where they're not responsible for what people say, there needs to be a third class of law that manages specifically large social media engines. That's what I think. Now, I don't like regulating things if I can avoid it. So like when I say that, keep in mind that this is only very, very reluctantly am I indicating that yes, this does
well,
need
all right,
some modification. It's just maybe not as hard as some people.
okay.
Yeah.
My response to that,
Yeah.
so yeah, they have internal rules that say nobody under 13 can be on social media. Australia has just enacted a law saying no one under 16 is
Yeah.
allowed to use social media. Um, but the government can't come down on that. There was a Supreme Court case that said everybody has a right to be on social media.
Yeah.
Right? The
And I agree with
government
them.
can't ban people. Now, if you say something, they can still come after you. You can say illegal things on social media. But
Right.
being, observing, reading, scrolling, seeing what has been published on social media, the government has no role in denying anybody access to that.
Yeah, I agree.
Right? That's the Pakenham versus North Carolina case, if you want to look
Yeah.
it up. But it was unanimous, and then a 5-4 majority just said, yeah, the government can't restrict. This is the new public square.
Yeah.
This is
Moreover,
they say this is the new equivalent of walking into the town square where
right.
people are publishing. The government can't regulate anything that's being said there, no matter how false it is, no matter how entertaining it is, no matter how
So,
addictive it
well,
is.
the
So
government can't. Yeah,
yeah,
the
the
government.
government cannot.
But the government, you wouldn't be regulating it. You would just be holding people accountable for um, their own their speech, right? Like you would be holding people accountable for the speech that they get. See, people like, for example, you don't even think about it, but like, do you know the number of slanders that take place on X every single day, like every single minute, right? It's outrageous, right?
Yeah.
But nobody actually gets sued because for the most part, people don't have the resources, it wouldn't be worth it, it's stuff, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But can you imagine if all of a sudden it was open and then people could actually start getting sued for it? Then it'd be like all of a sudden, you'd be like, boom, 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 boom.
Right. If I slander somebody I've never met, right? Say I slander Jeff Bezos, right? Nobody
Right,
cares.
right.
It's when somebody who's very, very close to has known Jeff Bezos for a long time, all of a sudden says something that would be really, really defamatory, like Jeff
Yeah.
Bezos doesn't wash his hands after using the bathroom or something like that. Right. Let's just keep it clean right here.
Why doesn't he do?
Then people might react to it. When I say something like that, it doesn't mean anything because I don't know the man, right? I'm just have
But
had
legally,
no
it's the same.
association with him. But yeah, so people throw out slander and it doesn't rise to the level of libel and it kind of gets
What
washed away.
It's legally the same. It's just not worth it, right? It just doesn't mean anything to somebody because you don't have the reach, right? Like if you go out and you say today Trump is a pedophile, you are committing the same crime that Trump's son would be had he said the exact same thing. The only difference is he may have additional evidence that we don't have, but you'd be committing the exact same crime, right? Because you are accusing somebody of a crime. You don't know it to be true. You don't have evidence to prove it to be true. You are committing the same crime. Now, that doesn't mean he's not obviously it's not going to sue you because one, you don't have the money to warrant any kind of why would he sue you? Because he's not going to get very much. And two, right, like nobody pays attention to you. So you don't have the reach either. So like he may not even ever find out that you said it. Likely he won't. Even no matter how big common mansplaining is, and I'd like to think we're large, right? We could say all manner of stuff right now and get away with it because we just don't have the reach, and right, we just don't have the resources. But it's still
Well,
the same.
we always preface stuff if we're going out on them by saying this is a spicy take,
Right, or
right?
yeah, or we don't
That's
know
what we
this, or
let people know. No, that's
right.
going. But yeah, so internal controls. I
But the other
guess
thing,
so. I have one other common sense sort of
sure,
solution that they could do internally. So this was when World of Warcraft came out.
yeah,
They were worried about people playing it too much, that it
yeah,
would be bad for their health.
I
So
remember
they
that.
had some in-game
Great thing.
incentives. Essentially, you stopped accruing uh, experience as efficiently if you were playing for very long, and if you took time off to rest,
That's
when you
smart,
came back, you got this experience bonus,
right?
right? So you weren't like being left behind and the
Sure.
sort of competitive things. And ultimately, right, they could put some controls in there that um,
I
I
like
guess
it.
parental controls after a certain time, then the
Yeah.
all you see
Well, like
is your profile, or all you can do is just use Messenger or something like that, or like it restricts the app down.
yeah, no, kind of
They
like
can do some things like that, but it
yeah,
would
kind of
have to
like
be a judge or the government can't be the one to dictate these type of
right.
changes.
Yeah, Yet. But
Mhm.
that's the other thing too, is I think, like, I really do think that this should be a third class. I really do think that
Yeah.
instead of it just being two things, and yes, right now it's tried and proven to have been shunted into one of those two categories, right? It goes under the one with all the protections. So, and I think it really should be, they should redraft it and just say, like, look, this is special. This is a special case. Because the other thing too that's going on, and there's just so many aspects to this that it's mind blowing. But like
Sure.
the other thing too that's going on is never before. It's you can't actually compare this to a town square, because a town square at most you're reaching a couple hundred people at most. You can have a really loud voice and be in a really well populous area, and you're only getting a couple hundred people. Not thousands, not tens of thousands, not hundreds of thousands, not 30 million. There's just nowhere remotely close. And I mean, this is just one of those situations where, again, like the Second Amendment, yes, I believe in the Second Amendment. I believe in it wholeheartedly. But yes, I do believe that the Second Amendment did not foresee pocket nukes, right? Like, it just did not foresee a suitcase nuke, right? And so,
All right.
yes, we have to draft an extra piece of legislation saying that, okay, suitcase nukes aren't just arms. And so we're going to have to draft a separate piece of legislation that says, I'm sorry, X isn't just town square. I'm sorry, because it's just that much different. That's just my personal opinion on it. I wish it was. I really do. I wish that we get, man, just the damage that one person does is just so vast.
Well,
With
again, all right. So let me talk to that point. So
Yeah.
our last episode, those of you that were here last time, we talked about citizen journalism a little bit. We talked about Don Lemon, but how now everybody with a phone can document and can say that they're a journalist if a story is unfolding, that they can start recording, witness, and they can post it. They can even publish it, right, to a social media site. So these social media sites become the home of citizen journalism, right? We're doing commentary, citizen commentary, and so that aspect of people being able to self-publish when they become citizen journalists, right, is a right I don't think people are willing to give up. Like,
I agree. They won't want
this
to.
is Elon Musk. He's a speech absolutist, he says. So he definitely wants to keep X open so that people
He's
can
not, by the way. He's not.
I know.
I'm
Can publish
closer.
these things. Now here's the issue, right? Maybe we didn't talk about this enough on our last episode. When they're citizen journalists, right, the quality of that journalism is going to vary. Let's say it's going to fluctuate, right? People have been in journalism school, or people that have editorial boards, or somebody overlooking and reviewing their reports, and they're publishing all of their sort of sources or notes for those things, versus somebody, right? You can cherry pick something that meets your narrative and you explode on that, right? We saw CBS got in trouble for editing an interview they did to make Kamala Harris look good, editing questions to be shorter rather than a long answer, things like that. So citizen journalists can now post this, and it comes across, citizen journalists can be very provocative or prove a point, right? This is like how the whole Charlottesville
Hoax.
hoax got spawned. People cherry picking, right? So so people get infuriated by that. Trump has been. They see cherry picking. They see these citizen journalists, and he's like, and nobody can hold them to account because they're not news organizations. Like, he can sue CBS News and ABC News, and they can be like, yeah, we shouldn't have done that. But citizen journalists, what's he going to do?
Well, he can hold them to account.
where the
The problem is
government
there's nothing. It's not. They don't.
Yeah.
They run into the same trouble that I just mentioned with you, right?
Yeah.
They don't have the reach to be botherable, and they don't have the resources to get once you hold them to account. Now, that's why I think there needs to be a third class. And when I say there needs to be a third class, I'm not saying that they should strip those people of their speech rights. What I'm saying is that if you don't have the resources and you're still going to be irresponsible, there needs to still be a way to hold you to account, right? Whereas normally, if you're CBS and you would get sued for $35 billion, right?
Yeah.
And I'm Eddie and I caused the same damage, but because I don't have $35 billion, I'm safe. That's not okay, right? If I cause the exact same amount of damage, I should suffer the same consequences that someone who owes $35 billion but can't pay suffers, and that is they go to jail. So if you're going to be that flippant, and if you're going to propagate a Charlottesville hoax and damage someone's career permanently and injure their right to property, their right to pursue public office, their right to do all those things.
There's such a long list of precedents on free speech. When you become a public figure, you sort of lose the ability to call that out. And that was one of the things, like in the 1800s and their elections, they would sling all kinds of rumors, just print them in newspapers about like so-and-so fathered, all these illegitimate children with such and such, slanderous stuff that would try to be disqualifying without any proof. And because they were already public figures, you couldn't go after the libel. It's one for me to slander.
Well, you still can, but it's harder. There are special rules on public figures, but I'm just using that as an example. I'm not saying specifically that. I'm just saying that if I cause that level of damage because I can, right? Because I have the ability to go viral on any app at any point in time, even though I'm not big, even though I don't, I may not be in the know, right? If I can cause that level of damage, then I should be able to be held account for that damage, right? Even if I'm just a Joe Schmo, right? And it's like everybody escapes because they're nobodies and because they can throw this damage out like it's a dart, like they just don't have to worry about it. And that's the big difference. Whereas before, when the freedom of press was written into the Constitution, every single person who wrote something in the press was able to be held account for it. Every single person. Okay. Because if they weren't, they would just go after the publication. And the publication would be held to account. So the publication would then editorialize, right? So they would have to make sure that everything fell through this certain level of
defensibility. Yeah,
right.
That it was defensible. Right. They could stand behind it. So when it was published, you knew adults were standing behind it, or various levels of competency.
I say that. I mean, this takes. It's not going to be easy to manage.
But keeping bad information, even outright lies, or just people mistaken things. I mean, you think about when Charlie Kirk was shot, right?
Yeah.
You and I were going back and forth with what we were hearing. Some people were reporting that he was still alive, right? And that they were making progress. And then I started telling him, I finally told him, Sean Hannity is reporting that he's died from 3 reputable sources, and that's when everybody's like, okay. And then the official announcement came about 30 minutes later. But that's when, we sort of trusted that level of journalism a little bit higher, and that the other things that were going out were like, okay, this is people, fishing. These are rumors.
I don't have a problem with it. See, and this is why what something that I need to fundamentally return to the press is, so everybody's gotten to the point in the press, and we could do a whole nother segment on this just on the press, but it's gotten to the point where they're much more interested in being first than they are about being right. Right? They're much more interested about just releasing something, anything. And I would even have no problem with that if their words were, we aren't sure yet, but this is the information we have from one source. Boom. I would have no problem with that. It's just like I had no problem with people saying, we don't know, if when I was growing up in school, if they said, we don't know when the first people to be in the Americas were, but this is who we think it was. No problem. But that's not what people say. They say, this is the first person that was in America. It's on the test Friday. They say, this guy is still alive. This is what we've got. And it's like, okay, that's just fundamentally irresponsible press. And that's the problem. So we've gotten to the point where we've gotten way away from what press was designed to be. Press was always supposed to be triple sourced, or at least two. Like, and even with two, you were supposed to say, look, we've got it on good information, but not 100%. Like people are no longer willing to give any sort of qualifier before they speak. And you and I do it every time, and we're nobodies. And I don't understand why the news can't do that anymore. I really don't. This is one of the reasons they've lost all of their credibility over the past 10 years, 20 years, because they're just saying whatever comes out quick. And I mean, how many times have they had to retract a statement that they made about Trump? Like in just the last 10 years alone, like 25,000 times or something?
Well, because the knee-jerk reaction to any story is to make it fit to support whatever narrative that they're going, which is usually the Democratic Party is good and the Republican Party is bad. And so they're looking for anything that spins that way that boosts the left's political power.
Yeah.
We're all very skeptical of it. And the retractions, have been embarrassing and have caused them credibility, because especially when they remain silent on reporting any stories that undermine that show that Republican platform ideas are based, have based on something that supports them, a story that supports it. It's like the Charlottesville killing, Irina Shayutska. They didn't want to report on that. They buried that story until the video came out, and they just couldn't bury it any longer. So, and this is social media has been really key in bringing this up. Now, I want to talk about the next thing. It seems like they're talking now because they understand the value, right? And this is what Mark Zuckerberg kept saying. It's like people will use apps that have value. So now they've been trying to say, well, we have to protect the children, but adults, we got nothing to say about adults.
Right.
Well. Right, they're attacking these algorithms, right? This is Macron. Europe definitely wants to clamp down on social media, right? They felt like Trump got elected because they pointed to Facebook. That Facebook didn't clamp down on advertising, pro-Trump advertising, and that was why some advertising group, social media advertising group that I'd never heard of became a big deal.
Right.
I can't remember the name. It's going to come to me. But and so then for the 2020 election, they clamped down hard, right?
Yeah.
And that was a big thing. And we saw X, well, it was Twitter at the time, restricting conservative voices, algorithm bearing it so nobody saw, the visibility was dropped off.
Yep.
And then that all got exposed. And this was one of the reasons why Elon Musk bought Twitter to democratize that. So these algorithms are very important. And that's what Macron wants to stop, control, hate, what he defines in his personal is any type of hate speech and algorithms that push this hate speech. He's trying to say it's the algorithm. What would be your response to that?
So this is again one of those situations why it needs to be in a new class. So there's aspects of it that need to remain like free speech, like all things, right? Like I should be able to speak my opinion no matter what, right? Part of me speaking my opinion is the people, if I'm in a town square again, right? If I'm in town square and I'm shouting, whoever's there can hear it, right? Now, one of the tricks of these algorithms is they can just systematically turn down my voice. They can make it so that even though I'm shouting at the top of my lungs, I don't actually have free speech. They can do it the other way too. They can say that even though I'm whispering, my voice resonates far louder than anybody else on the face of the earth. And unfortunately, studies do show that these algorithms will systematically enhance voices that are racist, misogynistic, emotionally
Provocative.
triggering, provocative. But yeah, because that's what engages people, right?
Mhm.
That's what makes people stay on the app longer. Now, so this is where it gets tricky, right? And I don't even know what to do about this. This is why I think this needs a third class, a class all to itself. Because it's one thing when, Eddie Paul-Antonio goes on and says something, right? I should be free to say whatever I want to say. I have to follow the rules of like anything else with my speech. If I say something that damages somebody else's life, I should be held accountable for it to the limit of the law, like slander, libel, whatever, like would normally apply to me, right? Now, as far as that's concerned, X doesn't have anything to do with what I say, right? As far as that's concerned, Facebook doesn't have anything to do with what I say. But when they put the thumb on the scale, they change the metric. That's when they start owning some of the accountability, right? When I say something stupid that would be slanderous, right? And normally that would be on me and not on them because they have that section 230 protection. But then they amplify it. I don't know. I don't know that they should be able to hide behind a shield when they amplify somebody else's damaging speech. And that's one of the biggest problems, right? Like if my speech goes viral because of them, I mean, I only have, what do we have, 16,000 subs here or something like that? Nothing we say goes viral unless YouTube wants it to. Right? And so if YouTube punches it, that's on YouTube in addition to me.
So one reason this is pushing on politics is I'm skeptical of the EU because they want to control.
Yeah. Screw Macron.
It has to do with elections, right? Any type of elections where any type of center-right party, right? They label them right-wing. They'll invalidate elections. They'll say, oh, they really want to silence conservative voices, especially anybody that wanted to push back on either COVID origins or on unmitigated refugee immigration type of thing was defined as far right hate speech and just banned. So when you can start banning certain speech, right, who gets to do that? That's definitely putting the thumb on the scale. And it was not done opaquely. And they would complain when a election is held and a lot of people vote for the conservative political party. They've been, they were manipulated by social media. This isn't really a fair election, and want to call new elections, things like that. So I'm very skeptical of them wanting to tweak algorithms. Now having some now, and these are one of the things is they are opaque. Nobody can see what the algorithm is exactly. And they say that's part of their trade secrets.
Right.
Now that might be that maybe that becomes not everybody gets to see what the algorithm is, so I can't copy your algorithm and make my own Instagram. I mean, one of the reasons why Facebook bought Instagram and paid good money for it was how sticky it was, right? Already. Before they did any algorithm enhancements. Just the app itself is inherently rewarding and valuable.
Speaking of, this is a side note. Have you noticed that we're talking about social media and how the algorithms might be potentially harmful? And you see how much engagement YouTube has given us so far? I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. This is not by accident. If you think it is, you're crazy. Like you're literally crazy if you think it is. There are definitely things that YouTube will tank, and this is absolutely one of them, right? And this is way less engagement than we get on a normal, average, everyday live broadcast.
Topic, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we're talking about Federal Reserve policy, and we get more people than talking about social media, which is in the news and very topical. But yeah, so if there was some way for a regulatory agency, right? You're talking about a third licensing that fell between newspapers and phones.
I'd rather the algorithm not be there, right? Like, or the not the algorithm, maybe whatever you call it, but it's the weight. I don't think the weight should be there. I think that you should be able to build your following just like you normally would, and there should be a blanket algorithm that doesn't lend any special weight to any one type of person. like any one like theory, like any one ideology, any one like political motivation, any one party, any of these things. I think the only way that they should weight it is, does this person is this person speaking about a topic that may be important, may be important to this person because that person has been known to look up similar topics, and that's it. Maybe like there needs to be some kind of like, but the moment they start putting their thumb on the scale, like, ooh, this is really hateful, and because it's hateful, this will get people to watch longer. So we're gonna add our thrust onto that. That's dangerous, right? That whenever the company is performing essentially
Well, all
favoritism
right.
for
Well,
each and every.
let me respond to that. I think it's because, right, because there was so much censorship of anything deemed hate speech or rude speech,
I think
anything
that should be missing.
that was
I think that should be
critical of
gone.
minorities or anything was all just banned, before Elon Musk. So now seeing that feels you almost get an adrenaline rush for it because it feels almost naughty, like, because I can't
Yeah,
believe
right.
they're putting this out there. So people are, well, number one way to be edgy is to put some sort of content out that's edgy
Fairly
on
safe,
a
yeah.
racial care, a sort of racist joke, or there
Right,
was
right.
like this girl, sort of cute girl, but wearing a T-shirt that had like Adolf Hitler as George Floyd saying "I can't breathe" or something like that, like, and super super trolly stuff that would have gotten banned. Nobody would have seen it.
Right,
Now, right, because of free speech, people can see it, they can laugh at it because it's so over the top,
right,
and
right.
or mock it or engage in it or something. It's attention seeking.
Sure.
But because this is a backlash and overreaction to the
It was
censorship we had, I think it'll even out. And I think
the studies
eventually
show that it was like that
our
before.
fascination with this new technology should also decline.
Maybe
I
that
think
maybe.
we're in a peak. I think there's some overreaction. This is my spicy take.
Okay.
Everybody's interested in this now, and the youth especially are super into it. This too shall pass,
Well, the
right?
problem is it's getting worse. That's the problem. So you're right. I think that you're right that this too shall pass, but the problem is it will just degrade into a worse step. Right? Things have been like if you imagine the amount of attention grabbing that Saved by the Bell was able to produce. And it was an engrossing show, right? Like that was a good show. It was funny.
Yeah.
It was enjoyable. And like even TV shows are written better than that now. Like, I mean, these
Oh yeah,
people have
yeah,
just gotten much better. They make better special effects, better marketing, better acting,
yeah.
better everything, right? And so but just think every time, if you look over time, it's just things have gone worse, 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 worse. I can download a game on my phone that people use for ads that is better than playing the Nintendo that I grew up with and was feverish over, right? The ads now that I must watch in between other games that I'm playing just so that I can get enough credits to continue playing the real game. The ad game is better than the Nintendo stuff that I used to play. Like, this is not going to get better, my friend. It's going to get worse. Now, yeah, you're right. It may not be Facebook. It may not be X. It may not be TikTok. Oh, no. We're headed for a worse phase. The worst phase. You ready what we're headed for? You ready for
The
my
doom
spicy take?
scroll.
This is
Okay,
my
tell me.
spicy take.
The AI.
AI is going to put video so real and so personalized in front of our face that we will literally never leave the couch. It will literally be like binging the best show you've ever seen in your life times 100 forever. And it will never run out of new stuff. It will never run out of new material. It will constantly have the maximum possible engagement for you constantly. And it's already started, dude. The new bot that just came out, like just this last weekend, that people are like making an uproar over. The video is sick. It is very good, very good. They're already making like trailers for stuff that doesn't exist. And I'm like, oh my God, when this comes out, I got to see it. I got to see it. When this comes out, and then like my friend's like, dude, that's not even real.
Yeah. I saw a thing of evolution of sort of AI video, and it was just the prompt was Will Smith eating pasta, right? And it was one in 2014, and you
Yeah.
get like, and it was, and then it was like 2016, and then 2019. You can look this up, and then 2021,
Nice.
and each time getting a little bit more realistic, but you can't. And then now 2026, he's like eating this pasta and having this conversation, and it looks,
I
yeah.
bet. I bet. It's
Like
like
it
perfect.
looks, yeah.
It's going to be at the point where like people are just going to be slaves on the couch. Like, I want to see more pasta eating by Will Smith. I got to see that. All right. Well, look, hold on. I that's my spicy take, but like, I do want to take a moment to talk about some of the stuff that's out right now, just for the moment. So yes, there are studies that show that this is addictive. Obviously, yes, there are studies that show that it's causing all kinds of problems. Right?
Well, yeah,
Maybe they won't
the
last.
depression issues and
Yeah.
driving up like
But here's the thing:
girls and stuff like crazy.
just like everything else, though, it isn't the actual tool that's doing it, right? It's because here's the thing: like,
Yeah,
if you
it's
have
true.
some teenage girl who's impressionable, right, who doesn't really understand her body well yet, and is measuring herself against some supermodel, or maybe not even a real person, like maybe some AI generated image, right? It's not even actually real proportions, or anime. I saw some dude that was measuring himself against anime, and I'm like,
Yeah.
why? Right? Why? But
Yeah,
okay,
my
but
skin's not as clear as an animated character. Yeah.
yeah, and I mean,
Yeah.
like, okay, yeah, I can't look as good as Goku does when he's Super Saiyan either. Like, whatever, right? And I've been working out. I'm in good shape right now. But that's not the point. The point is, it's still like, yes, is it a tool? Yes, can we go overboard with it? I mean, you still have to put this is what bothers me, is that the parents aren't putting any onus on themselves, right? If your teenage 11-year-old is stuck in front of a screen all day long comparing herself to anime characters, that is on you, parents. That is on you. When I
Preach.
was growing up, I got 30 minutes of screen time. 30 minutes. And then my parents were like, you're going outside, click, bang. And they would literally lock the door. They'd be like, you can come in when it's supper time. That's 8 hours from now. Bye. And we were like, can I use the bathroom? Go in the woods. Why can't parents do that anymore? I mean, I failed at
Well,
that.
this
Like,
is
even I must have missed
2026,
that.
and nobody wants to be responsible for themselves, let alone their children or their own
I
actions.
mean,
I mean, this is all about dodging personal responsibility. It has
yeah,
become the pastime of 2026.
it really
All right.
has. And I mean, I fail too. I'll own it. Like, I definitely let my kids have too much screen time. They don't have nearly as much as some other people I know, but like, good Lord, like my kids, I have to like literally tell them, like, listen, kids, put that down. No more screens. But what are we gonna do? Figure it out. Figure it out. There's Magic
Yeah.
the Gathering decks that you can go run. We can go out for a walk. We can go play frisbee. We can play. There's a million things to do, but you got to come up with some ingenuity.
I took my kids to the park today because it was all just like they wanted to be on. I'm like, no, we're going out to the park, and then like at night, my daughter wanted to watch like Bluey or Puppy Dog Palace, some insipid thing, and
Right.
I thought I could get her off. I'm like, no, you're gonna have to watch a movie.
Yeah. Right.
A long form movie, and I don't want to watch a movie. Oh well, then all right, no TV. Okay, I'm trying to put
Okay.
on a boring movie for him, and
Like literally,
uh,
like, yeah, it's like pulling teeth to move them from one screen to the other
yes,
screen. Like, it's like, oh my God, what is going on right now? It's driving me nuts. So here's another thing that I have beef with, and I just want to touch on
sure,
really briefly. Okay, dating sites, dating apps, right? Because this
yes.
is another form of social media. Okay, now I realize I'm old school, and the last time I dated seriously was before I was married, which was like 15 years ago. So let me just preface that by saying that I have no clue. I had no clue what I was getting myself
Yeah,
into, right?
grains of salt.
So here I am, and the dating game is like 100% different. Because back when I was dating, you like actually had to meet a person, like a real person, right? You had to actually meet you usually met them like at a bar or at church, or you're through a friend's friend, or you like both like went to do the same charity together or something, like you actually met a person. And I'm going to tell you about why that's important, because when something goes wrong, and by the way, guys, if you think that something doesn't go wrong in relationships, I got a bridge I'd love to sell you, because something will always go wrong in relationships. So don't, because part of the problem now is the way the dating game has shifted is people act like something shouldn't go wrong in a relationship. They feel it's like the moment there's the slightest miscommunication, like even the shakiest semblance of what might become a miscommunication in the future, and not only will they like release you from their life wholesale, like you will never hear from them again. You will never hear from them again. It's called ghosting, right? You will. It's not like when I used to date, and if something didn't go right, I still had to see them every weekend for church, right? Like I would still see the same person every weekend for the rest of my life until I moved, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not going to move every time I date somebody, right? Like you can't just you couldn't just avoid people forever. And people have gotten it through their heads with it that they can do that. They can just drop you out of their life, and not for any mistake or anything that actually went wrong. Like you could just like accidentally say something that bothered them. You don't even know. You could like literally be trying to figure out if you're ghosted for the next 3 days. Be like, so are we still on for Friday? Is everything good? Or are you just are you just busy? What's going on? Is everything all right? And like sometimes it is just that. Sometimes because of another bad habit that's come about through dating apps, like they just feel like they don't ever have to respond, right? So like they could literally get back to you 3 days later, be like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry, I was busy," and you're like, "Oh, okay, no problem," right? But like I've learned to be very forgiving about it. But meanwhile, if that person never gets back to you, you don't know for days at a time.
Right. Have you ever heard about the phenomenon of being paralyzed by choices? Right.
Yeah.
They talk about like you go to Harris Teeter, go to your local supermarket, and there's so many different choices for chicken marinades or salad dressing, and you have
Yeah.
no idea what to do. You go to
Yes.
Costco, there are like 3 choices,
Yes.
right? Butter one of the things, and so people consume more because they give them some options,
Yes.
but
Just enough.
not unlimited options kind of thing. And I think social media or people that have not had their parents try to ground them or something, when they go to dating sites, get paralyzed by
Yeah.
choice. And there's
And not
always
only
this sort
that,
of like, this is good, but what if something better comes along or something?
yeah.
And then I know one of the just advice that I got that, yeah, there, especially in California or a place where I grew up, where there's a lot of celebrities or people become celebrity focused. A lot of there are people who think like they could date a celebrity or something like that because
All
the
the time.
status, and it's just like you will never be with somebody like this, and you don't need that to be happy. In fact,
And
most of
even
these
if
people are unhappy because they never get time to spend with them. That person
right,
might be amazing and fun, but they're so busy you never get to see them.
right.
You've got to, and part of just our generation is understanding that relationships, dating about finding things you're in common with, and people that you can actually spend time with and are
Yeah.
kind to you, things like this, rather than chasing like, oh, maybe there's somebody that's 5% more attractive or has 10% less debt
Yep.
or lives a mile closer to me or whatever, right? And that type of thing is paralyzing to
Yeah.
the young people, and I think is detrimental to relationships.
Yes, very definitely. I mean, yeah. I mean, I could go on it about this for like hours and hours at this point, but it's like, yeah, there's people, this one, right. It's like similar situation, right? Like all girls on like a Tinder or something like that. Every girl like swipes on the top like 10% of guys, right? Like you literally, if you're not in the top 10% of physical male attractiveness, you just miss out at like 90% of the women. And like I'm on there, and like am routinely getting turned down by girls that I rate like a 2 or 3 on a 10-point scale, and I'm like, what are you waiting for? Like, who are you waiting for? Because if you're not taking me, I'm pretty broad with my tastes. Like I'll date anybody, right? Like, but if
As
you're
long as
not
they're
okay with
kind,
it,
yeah.
like if you're not, I don't think of myself as a Calvin Klein model, but I'm not bad looking. I'm in good shape. I've got good money. I can talk a good game. Like if you're not happy with this as a 2, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. You don't have anybody. Like I don't know what you're looking for. And yeah,
I have never been on Tinder, so I don't know what the experience is like.
you saved yourself.
I've always met my dates in person.
Wise, very
So,
wise.
but I understand the phenomena of people of shopping, and right, because I go through Facebook Marketplace when I'm looking for something. Say I want a
Right,
chair or something, like, yeah, this chair could work, but maybe if I keep scrolling for another hour and a half, I'll find something I like 10% better,
right,
right?
right.
And
Gotta be the
you know,
right.
so yeah, the idea of shopping sometimes, like making a choice. You put all this time shopping into it, and then making the choice and sticking by that choice. With dating, they're putting in this, and then they're like, "Oh no, I don't want to make that choice," or like,
Yeah.
you know,
But the big thing though that I think that I really wish that we would just recover is that people don't know how to work on relationships anymore. That's part of the biggest problem because there's so many different options out there. They've learned that it's just so much easier to find a new whatever than to actually like even take 20 minutes to like, hey, what did you mean by that? Did you really
yeah,
mean something offensive, or was it just like slip of the tongue, or was it a figure of speech, or did I
yeah,
misunderstand you? Or like a lot of this stuff is cleared up in like seconds if you just take a moment to like just address it. But we don't do that anymore in today's society. It's just like, let's just move on to the next model
yeah,
because, and sometimes, and not even, you'd be delighted if it was just the next one model. Because a lot of times, like, especially because girls have more options than guys in general, they'll have like 10 or 15 or 20 guys stacked up. And a lot of times I'll be like, number 3 or number 5 or number 7, and I don't know where I stand in this lineup, and like I, say something wrong. It's like, whoop, just like slide you off the ladder. It's like, great, good to know. But I'm kind of interested in what the audience has to say about it. Most of you guys are going to have to respond though as you go back and look at this after it's aired, because YouTube is not going to let
yep.
this thing get any
We are
visibility.
not getting any exposure on this. Is a
Yeah.
topic that this is the hidden topic. We'll have to post this on like the information Facebook does not want you, or Google does not want you to hear.
Yeah,
Like,
right. We're gonna have to write a
this is our
change title.
clandestine. If we ever want to talk about something super secret or spicy, we'll just be like, social media critique, and then we know. Well, anyway.
Maybe, golly, I don't know what we're gonna. I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna fool with the title, I guess. And I don't know. I don't even know what we're gonna have to do because that's crazy that YouTube tanked me like this. This is wild.
Yeah,
That's
we
crazy.
haven't had
Like
double digits. We haven't had double digits all night.
yeah,
So
this is like what it was when we were using StreamYard. Like you can tell when YouTube is like literally not showing your stuff to anyone. The only people, I guarantee you, the only people who've actually tuned in are the people who are like regulars of the channel and went to look for us. I guarantee it. Because this is about the bare minimum. Like I've seen bare minimum days before that were higher than this, where like just like people actively went to our channel to find us, and it was more people than this, like that's crazy. But anyway, but that's what we had for you today, guys. That's I mean, there's a lot more we could talk about. Social media is actually a big thing. I mean, but it's
well,
I don't know.
I think Macron says, when he gets he finds when social media works against him, right? He's very unpopular right now in France. So there's a lot of negative stuff. People,
Because it sucks.
if you want a social media or Instagram thing to go viral or get views, make something that mocks Macron, right? And people will
Hey,
like it. And right now, and so he called it, bullshit. And look, I'm sorry, right? When bullshit is protected by the First Amendment,
it is.
and being roasted by people because when you're a public figure is just something you've got to take,
Yeah.
right? You've got to man up and sort of just accept that that's going to come, and your popularity is going to wane and fall, and being unpopular is part of the thing. You can't just blame all of your problems on social media. Maybe it's your policies that are made and are being reflected by all the negative stuff,
Yeah,
and you can't control the narrative anymore. And that's what I think social media can be, a force for good. Obviously, you have to be an adult who, I think the more education, more exposure you have, where you can discern, right, and see whether something is. And I get fooled too, and see, okay, this was manipulated by AI. This was made to be more provocative than it really was. Right? Eddie and I were going to talk about something I saw the president of Mexico said, but it wasn't something she actually said. So
maybe. Man, I
maybe
still don't know. Actually, maybe.
potentially it was unreliable, right? We weren't willing to break it down.
Right.
So we've got to have. I guess we've got to be skeptical, right? Not be taken as easily, and that's something. I think that's the adjustment right now. Is maybe
Yeah.
people are too willing to trust,
Yeah.
or just go along with what they see on social
Yeah.
media. It is
Especially.
not the Wall Street Journal's journalistic standards.
Yeah. Especially
Just
if it's something
remember.
that just happens to agree with their echo chamber, right? Like if it's something that just happens to depict Democrats in a positive light, and you're a Democrat, yeah, all of a sudden the bar for what has to pass through your filter is just like super low. Same thing on the other side. Republicans do the same thing too. But yeah. So yeah, I would say, by the way, for those of you who are listening who actually are able to see this, I would go the other way with it. Actually, I would judge your own side more harshly because of that. Because the tendency is to let it through easier. I would be like, let me just check on this just to make sure, to keep my side on the up and up. Because you're always going to say okay when it's something you want to agree with, right? You're always going to. So just as a way of catching yourself, I would recommend, And yeah, and for those of you out there who are like independent journalists, Don Lemon, try to keep some kind of modicum of like quality to your craft. I would love. I mean, we really do. You and I do a good job, I think, of like we try to double source, triple source stuff, and if we can't, we say this is unknown information. This is a speculative, or this is a spicy take. This is us thinking, we're spitballing, where we don't know this to be true, or don't take us at face value. Go check for yourself. I don't understand why everybody can't do that. I really don't understand.
We look up the steelman arguments against our positions and
All the time.
trying to think through those and analyze them. And I think and one of the main things is try not to cherry pick.
Yes.
Right? You can take one thing out of context or one thing and focus on it, and it can give you a very warped picture of the
Yeah.
situation. But it's great for a 10-second video,
Yeah.
right? Or so it's tailor made for social media. Long form, come to Common Mansplaining. We will discuss these things
Yeah.
for you. Don't just take it. Bring you say, hey, I saw this on social media. What do you think about it? Bring it to us. We'll do some research. We want to
Yeah.
dig into that.
Definitely. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much for watching, all two of you, both of you, and we'll see you next time on Common Mansplaining.
Keep it coming.
Keep it coming.